Morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us on today's session. Sorry about the slight delay to getting started. We've had a couple of technical issues this morning that we've just been resolving. I'm delighted that we can now see and hear both our wonderful panelists today, which is Carly and Adam, who I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment. First of all, big thank you for taking the time to come and watch today's Bright Ideas session. This is a new series of webinars that Bright is looking to run. It's trying to touch on different topical issues within the accounting industry and drawing on the expert advice from our users. So I'm delighted to be joined by two of our Bright users today. And perhaps I'll come to you both in turn. You can just introduce yourselves to the audience and give a bit of background to you and your firm. That'd be great. Adam, shall I perhaps come to you first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. My name's Adam Clegg. My company is Swift Accountancy. We started in October 2020 and are based down in Ashford in Kent, down in the southeast.
Thank you very much. And Carly, I'll come to you next, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carly from Clarity of Accounting. We set up in July 21, and I also have a business partner, Katie, who's a co-director with me as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, before we get going, I should say we've got some great attendee numbers today, which I'm delighted to see. The panelists and myself, we're happy to take questions from the audience. So if you'd like to do so, you should have a control panel on the side of your screen, of which there is a questions box. Should you wish to ask a question, please feel free to drop it in there, and we'll pick up as we're going through today's session. So the session today is all about growing your practice, and I suppose one of the reasons that we've kind of touched on this, we talked to a lot of business owners at Bright, and they're very ambitious firms, very ambitious business owners, and they kind of talk about growing the practice. The reason they're looking to adopt new solutions sometimes is because they want to be able to scale that practice up. Having good systems and processes, of course, is one thing, but actually, okay, so how to do business development, what does that look like, how to prepare for it is another. And that's the kind of the insight that the guys are going to share with us today. I thought we'd start off by kind of just talking about goal setting. Now, and the reason being, sometimes when we're talking about growing the practice can be quite a broad spectrum and a broad, I suppose, intention for the business owner. Carly, I'll come to you first. When you kind of set up and you kind of had a vision for the business and you knew you wanted it to be bigger than it was on that day when you sat down and outlined the future, what did that goal setting kind of look like, and how did you, I suppose, use that as your basis for business development activity going forwards?
Goal setting is really difficult. So we always speak to clients about this, set your goals, know what your plan is, look at KPIs, things like that. I think as accountants, we're not exactly great at that, to be fair. And when you come to sit down and do it for yourself for the first time, it's quite daunting. You don't know where to start. Katie and I started with our end goal. When did we want to close the business? What did we want it to look like when we finished? What was our plan? And we tried to look backwards from there. And actually what we did is we set ourselves really small bite-sized goals. So the first 3 months, this is what we want to achieve. The next 3 months, this is what we want to achieve. So in all honesty, our middle bit of how we're going to get to the end goal is still a bit hazy, but we work on what's our goal for the next 6 to 9 months and move forward from that.
And Adam, that's kind of a similar position that you're in, aren't you, with SIFT as well?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think that's a really good kind of analogy of the bite-sized ones. Like if you imagine like the bell curve of a business growing and then getting to the top, it's really difficult if you're at the very start of that bell curve to see what it's going to look like at the top. Whereas if you then keep yourself on like the next 3 to 6 months or the number of clients that you're going for, it's far more achievable and manageable to kind of understand and put a plan together as to how you're going to get to that point.
And I think as we're going through the years, if you will, we're learning from our experiences as well, and from particularly from the sort of conversations that I've been having with lots of users, they kind of get going, they set up the practice, and when they're starting out, Adam, I think your experience was quite similar. You had a little black book of contacts to kind of hit the ground running with. Start operating as a business, and then you start seeing some more and more work coming in, and okay, what is working from a business development perspective, and where can we invest our time? And Adam and Oval from our conversation previously that you got going. You had a few people that you could contact to start with, and then you started hitting the networking circuits to try to establish that brand, to try and get that name out there, and that's worked quite well for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's been very well. So I'm a generalist practice. I don't have any particular specialism. The only one that I suppose I have got is I deal with charities, which in fact is really pivotal and helpful in the early days, because I was going to a church. The church had a lot of, well, the church is a charity in itself, and then people who were involved in that then had other charities that they were involved with. So then that kind of grew a little bit of a side niche. But then when it came to general networking, not having one particular industry that I was targeting, and that was kind of my goal, like from the start, it did make it far easier to network, to find kind of clients in all sorts of different nooks and crannies and different industries, which made general networking really successful for me, I would say.
And that's what I love about the panelists is when we have quite different backgrounds and experiences. Because Carly, for your perspective, networking didn't work for you, and do you want to explain for the audience why that was so?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, Adam and I have gone about things in completely different ways, but it's worked for both of us. So it just goes to show you don't need to necessarily go down a certain route. Do what you feel is going to work best for you. So networking for me, I've never liked. People often say I come across quite confident. There is nothing I can think worse of walking into a room full of people and saying, "Hi, I'm Carly. Can we chat?" I hate it. I can't do it. I realised quite early on the power of LinkedIn, and if I could connect with the right people and get the message out that way. And we decided early on that we would niche, and that niching would be a good idea for us to give a go. Don't get me wrong, it was really, really scary, the thought of almost alienating lots of people and only going for a certain target. But my experience is if you can niche down on who your ideal client is and speak to them, then it can work really, really well. And LinkedIn has worked really, really well for us, because we've been able to speak to our ideal client, especially using video, which at first, actually not at first, still now I find horrifying. But, and they say 100% of people hate the sound of their own voice, which is completely true. And I still cringe when I do them, but they work so well. And we have so many potential clients coming to us saying, "I felt like you were talking to me." And I always give a little every time that happens.
I think that's lovely, and it's interesting the differences between business development activities and the approaches to the business as well. So I'm taking it from Carly, from your perspective, you're a niche firm targeting construction clients, but you're targeting them on a national scale. So therefore, online networking or social media presence has worked really well for you. But Adam, are you targeting more of a regional area, people in your local area? So therefore, that's why networking is so apparent.
Yeah, in fact, one of the posts that went out on the Swift Accountancy social media recently was like a pin map of all the clients that we've got all across the country. And, there's a couple in Edinburgh, Nottingham, over in Gloucester, but, it's very concentrated down in Ashford. And that's because I pursued local networking and networking groups, whereas the way that have developed things is to be, as you said, a national presence. And that's developed very well for them.
Perfect. And we're going to dive into both of these different strategies, because I think there's going to be some other users on the call today that are adopting both strategies, and just want to get that sort of insight. So Adam, in regards to networking groups that you've seen work, is it the Chamber of Commerce? Is it other different BNI groups, or what have been the good ones and what have worked well for you in your experience?
It's difficult to say exactly, because I would say I was reflecting on this. I was on a local radio show yesterday, and one of the first networking groups I went to, they kind of got a shout out. They sponsored the radio show, and I thought back and reflected. And at that point, a very small, low pressure networking group was really good for me, because I didn't have the black book. I was still kind of growing, and so I would say at that point, very small, casual networking groups worked very well. Now I'm at the point where a more shall we say, serious networking group such as BNI, and you can see the box behind me, is working a lot better for me, because not only do I have more credibility to work within the room, but it's also then being able to kind of give back to the other people who are in that group. So yeah, it's horses for courses, and depends again on your overall growth strategy and where you are in that growth cycle, as it were.
And again,
yeah,
so
I'm not giving you an exact answer. I know I'm being a politician.
No,
it genuinely depends.
And that's fine. And I think, you know, the takeaway for the audience that are targeting the local area is give it a go, I suppose. You know, here's an example of it working. Again, when I was in practice, we obviously were all over the networking circuit, and we tried lots of different ones. And you know, from your experience, you obviously an advocate at the BNI, that didn't work for the firm I was at. The Chamber of Commerce really did, and we kind of associated ourselves with that. And it was a strategy that worked for us, again, because we were a local practice. But Carly, what you've touched on is really quite interesting about how to build a rapport with people that you are never going to meet physically. Now, when we are in person and we're networking, it's very easy to kind of build that rapport. You know, the old saying about communication is only a fraction of the words that we're saying. So you're trying to portray that over LinkedIn, and you've built a really strong brand on LinkedIn. And I think particularly the video content that you kind of you've touched on previously speaks volumes to that. When did LinkedIn become, I suppose, a key strategy for the business? Was it from the outset, or was it something that kind of happened organically that you learned from your experiences?
Yeah, right from the start, LinkedIn was the number one goal of how we would market and go about getting clients. So video wasn't an option at right from the start. I was posting, trying to post 3 times a week, and trying to post, accountancy tips, things like that. And then I quickly realised, by following quite a lot of marketing people, that I really, if I wanted to push it to the next level, I had to look at video. Because we all know people do business with people, and it's the know, like and trust thing, which with Adam, he can walk into a room and people can see him and meet him, and they can build that quite quickly. Whereas if you're just posting online, people aren't seeing your personality, and that's not coming through. So the video was really important in that. I think it's also important to know in LinkedIn that you've got to remember it's not one-sided. So it's not all about just posting, but you've got to build a network. You've got to comment on your network's posts, and you've got to keep popping up so that you're in people's minds. So the plan with us was, I carried on doing the accountancy tip on a Monday. On a Wednesday, I would do a video, and I would try and talk about maybe some of the pain points that our ideal client had and how we could help solve them. And then on the Friday, it was usually a picture or something to try and make me seem a bit more human, or something about my family, just so people got to know me as well.
And that's really nice, because it's a blend of, I suppose, personal as well as corporate branding, and to build up that sort of following, to build up that kind of recognition, and people, so that they feel like they know you, so when they're reaching out. Again, so when I was in practice, I didn't feel that people ever contacted us via social media to inquire about our services, but we probably never built up in hindsight that sort of relationship with our audience, so that people kind of really knew the business, and we went through a whole rebranding strategy, and I think they're going to go and do different things with that. But I've really been excited to kind of learn from firms that actually do see social media as a true referral source, and obviously you are a testament to that. You can obviously take it further with socials, and you can obviously pay to run advertising campaigns. I just thought I'd kind of touch on that with both of you to see if that was something that you'd explored at all, and what any sort of experiences are in that regard. Carly, perhaps I'll come to you. Do you ever pay for social campaigns or anything like that?
Never paid for any kind of marketing. We did join a marketing group just to get some expert advice. It was a group of accountants who got together with a marketing expert. So we did that for a little bit just to pick up some tips. But I've never paid for actual marketing, and I probably will never pay for marketing. I think my main tip is to remember that it's you need to build up your personal brand, rather than, especially on LinkedIn, it works differently with different platforms, but building up you rather than posting as a company, because it's a little bit faceless. And I think that, especially on LinkedIn, it's all about linking with people. And I think you've got to build that personal brand.
And Adam, what about yourself? What's your experience been like with paid ads?
Yeah, so I pay someone to produce LinkedIn and Facebook posts and stuff for me, just because I was aware that I needed to kind of start to get that going, but I know that I haven't kind of given the time, the dedication to getting those posts right, because as you say, it can be a little bit faceless, a bit hollow, whereas it's making them more personal, adding video, it makes it more worthwhile. And I think one thing I don't think we've said yet is that the actual selling that you want to be doing is very minimal. I think I was on a webinar with Laura Taylor, who has a construction accountant firm up in Scotland, but she said that it's like 1/6 of her posts are actually hard selling. The rest is kind of helpful content marketing, and that's far more useful and beneficial. And we build up that know, like, and trust far more than, blowing your own horn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if I compare the social media strategy that I was adopting in practice as to what Carly's doing, we probably were just educational, very accounting related, very tax legislation updates. And we never really engaged, and we never really put out that other sides of the business, and therefore didn't establish that reach. I think, Carly, for your videos that you're putting out, I think they're getting really, really good reach, really good view numbers, and you're building up that brand so that when you do then post something that is legislation based, or something that you kind of almost have a call to action on there, it's more likely to be engaged with by the audience. So I think that's a good key takeaway from today. Now, but what I think is really interesting is that we've touched on, okay, so business development is going well for both the firms, but you both said that you don't really, but Carly, you specifically don't pay for any marketing ads, you're paying a little bit for somebody on socials. So therefore, cost is not a barrier to entry for business development, is what I see, and so therefore that brings on to a great referral source, which is free, of course, and that's referrals. I wanted to touch on referrals, and perhaps I will start with client referrals. How do we engage with clients, and should we be asking clients to give referrals to other businesses that they know? Adam, perhaps I'll come to you in this instance, because I know this is actually something that you do.
Yeah, I go for referrals a lot, so it's part of BNI, but also it just makes sense. I think one of the first things I did when I started with started with my dad at his accountancy practice up in the Midlands, and I kind of, what if we started to introduce a scheme so people get a percentage off their bill for every client they brought along? And it just makes total sense, because if the client that you're servicing is your ideal client, the chances are they will know other ideal clients that they can bring into the fold. I incentivize people to do that. So for every successful referral that comes on board, I send people a bottle of Chapel Down, which is a local sparkling wine that is produced. And, I can't remember exactly how much it costs, but the gesture of sending it means far more than the actual kind of pounds that it costs. It's a show of appreciation, and that goes a long way in building those relationships.
Excellent, good stuff. And so I hope you get those referrals that I send you, because I'm waiting for that sparkling wine to come. But Carly, what's your approach with clients? Do you ask them for referrals? Do you have that sort of, I suppose, interaction with them?
We absolutely do not do this enough. We have loads of clients that tell us how great we are and what a good job we're doing. And we should absolutely capitalise on that and say, actually, can you, we're looking for your clients at the time, please can you recommend us? And we absolutely do not. So Adam's, I think, sort of nailing that, and we're not doing that.
So one thing that I do, I've got a canned message in Accountancy Manager that not only has like asking for referrals, but also it points people towards Google, Facebook and LinkedIn to leave a review. And again, I would do a raffle type thing. So for every review that people leave, ideally good reviews, then their name goes into a hat, and once a year, the winner gets a case of Chapel Down. And I'll emphasise that it's one entry per post, so they they could copy and paste the same thing on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Google. I don't really care, because the chance, like, it just kind of builds it up like more and more if there's more actual reviews. So yeah, making it as easy as possible for people to be able to do that. And it's just an exercise of going through, running the canned message, pressing send.
We've recently set up messages in AM also to ask for reviews, but haven't gone as far as actually sending them yet. I think accountants, a lot of us are not great at is blowing our own trumpets, asking for feedback and things like that. It's difficult, it's hard, but we do need to get better at that.
No, I think you're quite right. It's like, I don't think anybody really likes shouting about themselves like all that much. But and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people on the call that resonate with that and kind of think, oh, that is me. So it's nice to hear that that you guys are in the same position, but it's working well for you. Just for my 2 cents, so a really great business development activity that we did from a referral perspective was unintentional, to be honest with you, and that was our client survey. So we send out an annual client survey, and the reason we did it was to get genuine feedback on the business, and we were kind of like ask people what are the first words that you think of when you think of Prime was the company name, and what's the one thing you hope never changes about our business, and just big things about the practice, so that we knew that people appreciated the brands and they'd like the firm. Of course, we then kind of asked questions where they could rank different things from 0 to 10, just so we had some analytical data that we could then start to track year on year. And we go through all this, and we'd also say, did you know that we sell X, Y, and Z services? That we had an independent financial advisor as part of the suite of services, but cross sell was difficult because typically clients would come back and just take the same services year after year and didn't recognise that we had other services available. And at the end of the survey, we would just ask, is there anybody that you if you think we're doing a good job, is there anybody that we should be talking to? And people would make recommendations for other businesses or other people that they know or they're working with. And of course, then we would follow up these people saying, oh, so and so was very kind to suggest you've got a proactive business and that we might be able to benefit from working together. So it was great opportunity, really, although the original intention of that campaign, or it wasn't campaign, of that activity, was not to generate inquiries, but it did. There's 2 more things on reviews that I just wanted to come to. Firstly, the online reviews. So you touched on it there. So the online reviews and having a decent presence on the likes of Google these days is absolutely paramount, because for those inquiries that are going to be searching the website and falling across your brands almost, it's very important that there's a decent online presence. What sort of strategies are, as you said, you're driving people to leave Google reviews? Is it just Google reviews, or is there other review platforms or anything like that?
Just Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google. Google's the main one, because if anyone kind of looks up, say, accountants in wherever you are, that's what they'll be looking at. And the star rating, it's the social proof. People don't want to be the first people to try out the shark bite suit. They want to see that other people have done it and that it does protect them, or that you can add value to their business. So Google is the main one, and to have that Google listing as accurate and up to date as possible, because it'll probably be the first place that people look, and then onto the website. And that's one of the things I'll say. Having the Google reviews, testimonials, or case studies on the website of where people can see, like, someone had this particular problem, Swift Accountancy helped them solve that, and then a quote from them at the bottom of, this is what it meant, this is how it made me feel when they solved this problem for me. That goes a long way.
And Carly, from your perspective, I'm interested to hear if you do the same, but also recommendations on LinkedIn, because you're so active on LinkedIn. Are you asking for recommendations there as well?
Yeah, so I've taken LinkedIn to be the main place to try and get clients to leave feedback, because I know people are obviously following me on LinkedIn, and that's the main way to contact us, and they'll go on to my page to obviously message me. So it's the main thing is to try reviews on there.
Now, we've had a question come in from the audience saying, how do you request Google reviews from clients? Feels a bit pushy for me to ask them, which I totally get. For my 2 cents, I'd say it's all about the environment and the relationship with that client. So it almost would be a bit of a judgment call. So perhaps you've just finished the year-end accounts, and it's gone particularly well. The client's particularly happy. Perhaps it's just a closing message as that process is coming to an end, that you might just say, "I hope you've enjoyed working together. If you'd be so kind as to leave me a review," that would perhaps be a nice environment to do it. As again, you have to try and pick and choose the clients to do it with, just the ones that you've got those sort of relationships with. Adam, could you just explain where you ask, or how you're driving people to leave those Google reviews?
Generally, it is after kind of everything's done and dusted, particularly if we've had a big win. So let's say we've given them some advice, it's given them a big tax saving. When they're at the high, when they've got that good feeling and the endorphins are running, that's when you say, capture that feeling. Put something in words about how that makes you feel. And for me, it comes down to the copy of the actual message, where I can't remember verbatim, but essentially I say, "Thanks, I hope you've kind of enjoyed working with us together. It's been like a positive experience. Other people might benefit from hearing about how it's been. If you would be so kind, reviews here, X, Y, and Z." And then you might get some champagne or sparkling wine out of it, which, it softens it a little bit. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thanks for the question. Again, just to reconfirm that if you've got more questions, please feel free to pop them into the questions box there. It's great to see those coming through. Just before I move on from referrals, external referrals from other professional services like solicitors, financial advisors, do you see any referrals coming from them? And if so, is there a specific strategy, or do you manage it at all, or is it just something that happens organically? Perhaps, Carly, I might come to you in the first instance.
Yeah, so we're a bit better at this. So we've actually got a business that we met on LinkedIn, and now and again I will do some webinars with him to help his clients. So that actually helps me speak to more people in the construction industry as well. But he refers a lot of his clients our way, and then we send, a bit like Adam, we send a little thank you hamper just if we get a client sign up from that. But alternatively, sometimes we have clients that come to us who aren't quite right for us for whatever reason. We've niched down in quite a lot of areas, not just construction. But we look for other accountants that we can send those leads to as well. So Adam, actually, we send a few bits now and again Adam's way that he'll be much better suited to than us.
I was going to move on to pricing. So what this is specifically about pricing for existing clients. Now, again, when we talk about growing the practice, we talk a lot about business development and where we find the clients, how we convert them, and in fact, we could probably touch on to what the proposal process looks like, but that's by the by. But talking about pricing for existing clients is also a big opportunity, I feel, because we start our practices sometimes, or certainly the experience is what I hear. We start our practice and we start with a particular fee level, if you will. As we're getting more and more experience, as we're building up our user base, actually that fee level should probably be increasing. And the question really is how often do we go through these clients, evaluating what fees that they're currently paying and whether they're still appropriate? Adam, could I come to you on that one, please?
Yeah, I would say as much as you can undercut, say, the big firms who are out there, it's very short-sighted, because you can only service so many people, and you're a race to competing on price is a race to the bottom. And so try as much as possible to not discount just for the sake of getting people kind of in the door, because you will make a wad for your own back. And I know that because there are clients that I have that I discounted when I brought them in, and I am disinclined to now work with them, but also I'm not feeling courageous enough to actually bin them or find someone else to refer them on to. When it comes to pricing, I use Go Proposal. I would even say that when I went to Accountex last year and I kind of listened to a lot of what James Ashford said, I had ice cream with him on one of the stalls and talked about it. It was a real turning point for me in terms of the the intentionality to go beyond seeing myself as just a small business or just myself, because the aim was always for it to be bigger than just me. And again, the mindset that creeps in is that you can discount, you don't have to have all these systems and stuff, you don't have to pay all this stuff, but it pays for itself in terms of the value. When it comes to repricing, I tend to do that kind of on an annual basis. So I'm getting more diligent in that. So going through, running the renewal, it's quite where I'm moving to oversuite for engagement letters. It creates a good opportunity to then move them over, get the proposals on that system, and then reprice at that point, and wrapping it up in new legislation, new letters of engagement, standard processes, and people don't really bat an eyelid, generally because they've bought into you and the service you provide. And if you're serving them well enough, an increase is kind of to be expected, particularly with what we're seeing generally at the minute.
Absolutely. And Carly, is that the same for you? Do you kind of keep reviewing these prices on an annual basis?
We find pricing we do pretty much consistently. So we are always looking at our pricing and looking at. We don't have a year end as such. So all of our clients have a whole suite of services with us, and we speak to them on a quarterly basis at the very minimum. So you must be VAT registered to work with us. We don't do the bookkeeping, but prefer to do the bookkeeping, but we absolutely must be reviewing your VAT on a quarterly basis. All of our pricing is in bands. So if we do bookkeeping, it's all in bands. If we do payroll, again, that's all in bands. CIS, all in bands. So we're constantly looking at those, and we are checking where clients sit, so that if we move up or down bands, that we're doing that, and we're making sure they're in the right band. So we review that quarterly. Yes, we have something that in our terms that says we have an inflationary increase. But I think we're always looking at what we're charging and actually, moving where services are. So, for instance, we have a year-end fee, but we actually do the accounts through the year. So we're posting depreciation on a monthly basis, reconciling loan accounts on a monthly basis. So we're charging for that as we go through. All of our clients on monthly, they get charged monthly, and therefore we're doing the work as we go. We don't offer refunds. They decide to leave partway through the year. But I think pricing is really, really important. We don't offer discounts. We have never offered discounts. I am also a massive fan of James Ashford, though we don't use the proposal. We've got our own pricing matrix that we put together, and we actually just put that together in Excel, and we can print PDF to have a lovely document that looks something like Go Proposal, what you might send. And as I say, we tweak that as we go along. So I think pricing is key to make sure that you can provide the right service. And a bit like James Ashford says, if anyone asks for a discount, and actually 9 times out of 10, nobody, but if they do, then we say, appreciate you asking, and I would ask as well, but no, to give you the level of service that you need with discounts, you need to pay this amount.
Yeah.
And again, when we were in practice, if it was come back and you almost, I was more involved in the onboarding and quoting aspects. If people came back and said, it's more expensive than what I wanted to pay, well, that's because we're going to be delivering probably a better quality service ultimately, because you're obviously leaving your previous advisor because there was something wrong. We're going to deliver a higher quality service, and therefore, unfortunately, probably is going to cost more because you get what you pay for it in all walks of life. Yeah. And if they ask for a discount, then we would kind of have the conversation would be, well, what services do you want to take out? Because unfortunately, we can't just be dropping the prices down. Now, Carl, you touched on that you're almost offering like quite an advanced level of service, I feel like, with the monthly bookkeeping and everything going throughout the year. As I was going to say, how do you go through the client base and identify other opportunities for additional services for existing clients? And is there any sort of cross-selling opportunities that you can identify?
Yeah, there's absolutely. Oh,
sorry. Go on, Carly.
Shall I go first? So yeah, there's absolutely cross-selling opportunities, and I think we often get sidetracked by let's get more clients in, but actually you want to try and get your fees per client up as high as they can be, and make sure you're working with your clients as best you can first off. So there are some services which you have to have with us, and there are some services which you don't. So we will always speak to clients. So a great example of this is I had a client join me, one director payroll, and he decided he was going to do the payroll himself. So we gave him the Zero payroll module, which was £5, and he said, £5 a month, fine, I will do it. I told him, gave him the training, showed him exactly what he needed to do, told him exactly when he needed to do it, and it came to running the first payroll and he forgot. So then he gets a £100 filing penalty. And then I tell him off and we sort it out, and then we move to the next month and he forgets again and he gets a £100 filing penalty. So I say to him, this service you need to move to us because it's costing you more. You thought it was cheaper, but it's not cheaper. The same with clients that do their own bookkeeping. So it's identifying where they're struggling. And I've got some clients that are doing their own bookkeeping, same client and also a couple of others, where they're not keeping up and they're not putting the effort in. And when we're reviewing it, we're finding lots of mistakes. So we're saying to them, right, how much money could you earn in the time it took you to try and do that awful bookkeeping? What else could you be doing? How much money could you be generating? And actually, if you paid us, would you end up better off? And they soon realise that although our fees are increasing, they can actually earn more money doing something else which they're better at. So that's the sort of route that we will always go down. It's not selling, it's helping them to make more money in their business by outsourcing what they shouldn't be doing. And I think that's absolutely the route to go down. Similarly, management accounts. We started off offering management accounts to clients right from the off. And we soon realised that when they joined us, their accounting records weren't up to scratch. We didn't necessarily understand the business completely. And we were preparing these management accounts, which were rubbish, and they didn't mean anything and couldn't be relied on. So we ended up giving clients refunds and saying, we can't do this service because we can't give you a quality product. So now when we have new clients join us and they say, we want management accounts, we say, hold on, let's get everything up to date. Let's get to know your business. Let's have a meeting about it. Let's get to know what's happening. And then 6 months, 3 months, however long it is down the line when we're ready, we'll introduce that service. So we'll always go back to clients and pick up on the management accounts and do they want those if they'd be helpful to their business.
Excellent, thank you so much. And Adam, welcome to you.
Yeah, I think when you're speaking to the client, when you're kind of having those conversations on a quarterly basis, try and give them the back return, it's a good time. And then on the year end, as you kind of look back, one thing, so I use SIFT for kind of management accounts. And within that, they have like a kind of taster report that you can generate that's a bit of a feeder for what management account could look like, what it could do for them. And so that is quite a good kind of report for saying, look, we could give you so much more information. This is a taste of what it would look like. Do you want to have a conversation about adding management accounts onto the services? And similarly for bookkeeping, say if a client has been doing it themselves but hasn't been doing it as well as they could, have a conversation. It's about helping them to see that, or to have, as James Ashford talks about, the poverty or the abundance mindset, and trying to instill that abundance one that, yeah, you could spend your Saturday morning kind of doing your bookkeeping or whatever, or you could go and like spend some time with your family, which is the whole reason you started your business in the first place. Again, people don't always see the link between the two of them, but that's where we come in to kind of help them to see that.
Excellent, thank you very much. And I suppose just finally, I'm conscious of time because we're roughly running out of the hour, but is there any other, I suppose, business development strategies that you guys kind of implement within the firm that has worked quite well for you and you've seen it's generated a few inquiries?
For me, I think it's mainly LinkedIn. I dabbled in Facebook, but I think I've said before, it didn't work for us. Because you have to do it almost as a firm, it didn't work. I don't think you quite get the reach unless you're looking for paid ads and to get the ads in front of people. And however much my mum shares my posts, it's not going to my ideal clients. So I didn't find Facebook, for instance, so great. But I think it's really important to look at know what your ideal client is and find out where they hang out. So for some, I know they found it really, really great on Instagram, for example. I know lots of creatives are on there. So if that's your target market, that might be somewhere where you look to do a lot of your marketing.
Yeah. For me, so tying in like your personal interests as well. So I'm a runner. I don't run very, very fast or well or consistently, but I'm keen. I'm an enthusiastic amateur, and so I've decided to partner with one of the local running clubs to sponsor one of their races. So that will see me like having my name all over everything. The medals that go out, that will have the Swift Accountancy logo. The buffs that you give out for people who completed it, that's again got the name. It's got the running club. All the promotional kind of in the run up to it, say on the local radio, in the papers, all that will have Swift Accountancy plastered all over it. And there's a certain punnery available between Swift Accountancy and Swift Running, which is quite nice. That was unintentional, but it works. And yeah, to do it on its own, which I see other professional body or services do. They will just sponsor a thing, throw some money at it, and that's it. And that on its own isn't going to do something. It's got to be tied into like an overall thing of, again, like pushing it on your social media, having it kind of front and center of what you're doing. So yeah, it's got to be specific and part of an overall kind of bigger plan if you were to do something like that. But yeah, it's all kind of got to be built into something.
Perfect, cool. And so just for my 2 cents, so again, so I was marketing and BD manager at the firm, and the way I kind of analyse our business development strategies, I would get every single inquiry, every bit of data I could possibly collate about any inquiry that we've ever received, and I'd break it down by referral source. Okay, so what are the referral sources? Was it a referral from a professional partner? Was it a referral from existing clients? Did they find us on the website? Yeah. Was it some of our advertising activities that we did? And then I'll kind of break it down into quality and quantity. So, for instance, the website for us was an excellent referral source in quantity. We get loads and loads of people kind of contact us for the website, but actually for our firm, the quality probably wasn't quite there because we weren't the cheapest accountant, and those prospects that were coming through online were probably emailing 2, 3, 4, 5 other firms just to kind of get a quote. So it was unlikely that we was going to convert those. Our strategy in that regard was to make sure that we had some sort of quick response that we could send to them, so that we weren't investing too much time into them, but at the same time we were getting the opportunity to quote. So we had a fixed price offering in that regard. So obviously we'd also then have a look at the quality. So actually, ultimately, what referral sources were converting the most in that situation, it was going to be referrals was also quite well for us. Other activities that obviously that we did, and we saw some returns, and I kind of break it down into be like how much was the cost per inquiry and how much was the cost per client. Obviously, a big difference between the two. But we also tried Google Ads over the time. In my experience, it was difficult to get like a decent amount of leads from Google Ads when you're doing it for accountants. Right, accountant was such a competitive search term that it was very expensive and didn't get that many results. But if we were at the time, Xero wasn't what it is today. And in the early days of Xero, when we were advertising ourselves as a Xero firm, that worked really well for us from a Google Ads perspective. But yeah, I think for everything that we've kind of discussed about and spoken about on the call today, it's trying stuff and learning from our experiences. So just before we wrap up, I was wanting to run a quick poll because obviously the guys mentioned accountancy manager a couple of times on the call today, and obviously it'd be remiss of me not to just give a bit of an outline about Bright and the other products that we offer. And we'd love the opportunity to try and talk to you a little bit more about our products. So if you were interested in hearing any more about any of the products that are on the screen in front of you at the moment, please do just click the button and hit submit, and we'll be delighted to talk to you about it. although I haven't quite gone over it, Accountancy Manager is practice management software. So it's ultimately it's a one-stop solution for onboarding through to task management. It's a GDPR secure client portal as well. So and it recently introduced a new workflow tool that enables you to break down tasks and assignments into lots of different subsets. BrightPay is payroll software. So it's currently desktop based, but we're in the final stage of running a cloud project on that as well. So that's quite exciting for us at Bright. BTC software is tax software, and it's new to the Bright portfolio. Joined us in last October, and I've seen lots of excellent reviews about BTC software online. And Surf AP and Surf Accounts, bookkeeping and accounts production software. Only in Ireland at the moment, but again, that's something that we're working on. So we can see that's generated a little bit of interest. So thank you very much for that. I'll just give it a couple more moments for people just to complete that. Okay, I'll close the poll. Thank you very much. Now we are almost at the hour. So I just wanted to say a big, massive thank you to everyone that has who's joined the session today. It's great to see so many people coming online to watch the session, so I'm really delighted to see that. We will continue to be doing these Bright Idea sessions on a regular basis. In fact, I've got another one next Tuesday, and that is with Reza Huda. So Reza Huda is a bit of a speaker within the accounting industry, and he's going to be coming on to talk about how you can maximise your profits and times them by 10. So that's next Tuesday. So please do look out for details of that session online, and we'll be delighted to see you on that. Big thank you from me to both Carly and Adam for not just appearing on the session, but also hosting the session when I dropped off to have an unintentional break. I really do appreciate your time and your insights. Obviously, these sessions are nothing without the panelists, so I do appreciate you coming and sharing your experiences with the audience today.
Pleasure.
Apart from
that,
here. No, thank you. Apart from that, that leaves me nothing else to say, but thank you to everyone for attending, and yeah, we'll see you on the next session.